I'm Trey Spruance. I play guitar in Mr. Bungle. I guess I play guitar now. I used to play lots of other things, but now the goalposts have narrowed.
My mind.
Uh, I do all kinds of other music too, but yeah, that's we're talking about the Mr. Bungle tour, so this is what's happening. Guitar, guitar, guitar.
Beautiful, brother. Thanks for joining us today.
Say again?
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, of course, my pleasure.
My pleasure. So, Mr. Bungle hit Australia for a run of shows starting in Auckland on March the 3rd, then heading to Melbourne, Adelaide, Sydney, and Brisbane before finishing in Perth on March the 12th, mate. So, I know it's stating the obvious, mate, but how pumped is the band to be coming over to this side of the world?
Oh, it's great. I think let's see, for Mr. Bungle, this is our third time. I think it's our first time playing in New Zealand, though, so that'll be new territory for us. And right before that, we'll be in Japan.
Nice.
But you know what? Australia has always been like really a stronghold for Mr. Bungle fandom. So it's really great to be able to uh to come back with this band. I've been back with other bands since then, and I was never sure that Mr. Bungle would make it back. So it's very cool that we're actually able to do it.
Well, have they prepared you for the possibility that you could be coming into a heat wave? We've had a heat wave for about the last 2 weeks. It's been ridiculously hot.
How hot?
As in like 40 degrees in some places, like sweating in the aircon even.
Well, I'm at the risk of upstaging this. I'm talking to you now from Phoenix, Arizona.
Stay
40
that hot.
degrees is like nothing to us. We eat it for breakfast.
Cool, you'll be over here in long sleeve shirts and jeans then. You'll be laughing.
Yeah, I'll be head to toe in black and with long sleeve shirt. You're right. Like maybe a leather jacket even.
Cool, so I suppose the popular question, mate, is what can Australian fans expect from the Mr. Bungle shows when you come over?
Well, they have never heard this part of the band. They have through the internet, but they've never experienced this live, the death metal assault. Yeah, it's full on fucking speed metal, really crazy fast show. It's nothing like we did before. I mean, if they're expecting a whole bunch of genre shifting, I would say that's not going to happen. But we do actually play a bunch of cover songs, so it's a little. You're not going to go see a death metal band and see what Mr. Bungle does with the death metal experience. That's for sure.
And on the flip side of that, mate, like what do you guys expect from your crowds? Like do you sort of notice much, or you're that wrapped up in what you're doing on stage you don't sort of notice what's going on in front of you?
That's a good question. Um, I'm usually very wrapped up in what I'm doing, but since now I'm sort of just playing guitar, you would think that I would be paying more attention to what's going on out there. But actually, I'm playing like 80 billion notes, so I'm still stuck paying attention to what I'm doing. And it doesn't matter in Mr. Bungle because everybody's looking at Mike Patton anyway. And now that there's Scott Ian and Dave Lombardo, like I'm way down the totem pole. Like nobody cares. It's good. It works for me.
Now, you sort of touched on this briefly, mate, but I want to go into it in a bit more detail. Like, what is the main difference in Mr. Bungle's shows and your music this time around to what when you were here last time?
Just the repertoire, just the music that we're playing is we're going back to our uh, music that we wrote. Like I was 15 years old when we wrote the music from our Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny demo. 14 and 15 years old.
Yes.
Um, so that's the music that we're going to be playing is like, stuff that I was playing when I was learning how to be a guitar shredder, something I gave up on immediately after making that demo. So it's a weird, it's a strange territory for I think for all of us to revisit, but at the same time, it's absolutely imprinted in our soul as a band. So it's also kind of like second nature, like breathing to us. It's like what bands when they would go back and play the 12-bar blues or something. That's what we're doing. This is our version of going back and playing the 12-bar blues, playing
Right.
fucking death metal.
You mentioned that album, The Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny. Like, what was going through your mind when you named that, mate? Like, were you trying to name it something that no one could fucking say, or were you trying to name it something that sounded cool? Because it's damn near impossible.
Yeah, well, it, if I remember this right, it's a quote from a lyric from a if you can believe this, there were Mr. Bungle's side bands even in 1985 and 86, and there was a Mr. Bungle side band that had a lyric that actually screamed that very phrase out, the
Right.
raging wrath of the Easter Bunny. And the lyrics were all this complicated metaphor about fertility and procreation. It's very stupid, like angsty teenage boy stuff.
Thanks for clearing that up. I still can't say it, but I know what it's about now.
Yeah, you know what? You're the first one to get that scoop, actually. Nobody ever asks what it means.
Oh wow, they're awesome stuff. Awesome. And you're going to be bringing the Melvins with you over for the running shows too, mate. Like we all know what a great band they are, but why choose them to come on the whole tour with you?
We wanted to make sure that our revisiting Australia was something special and grandiose, I guess. And I don't think we have anything better to offer than the Melvins, quite frankly. Who would? It's unbelievable. And we go so far back with them that, traversing internationally with them, which is something we've never done. This will be our first time playing internationally with them.
Okay.
Just seems right. It's like the best bang for the buck that I think that we can offer.
Now I'm going to go back in history a bit here, mate, because to be honest with you, it's not every day we get a chance to chat with a band like you guys that have been so massive for the world music scene. So back to the start, mate, like yourself, Trevor Dunn and Mike Patton formed Mr. Bungle while still at high school back in 1985. So what was the musical climate like back then that gave birth to the band, and what were your initial goals, or what did you want to achieve?
You said 1985, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, it's correct. Yeah, it's right. It's right. Um, Goals, let's see. Well, yeah, 1985, 14 years old. I would say you have to understand a little bit about where we came from. We come from a very remote logging town. I know when you say California, it conjures up an image of something, and I assure you that's not the image of where we came from. It's more like the Pacific Northwest. It's equally distant from Portland and San Francisco, with essentially nothing in between. So we're
Wow.
talking, 500 miles or 500 kilometers each direction, with very little culturally happening. So the sense of isolation and the sense of um, no future, darkness. Let's see, maybe nuclear war was impending. Lots of people beating us up at school for not being like the rest of everyone else. I guess we had a lot to say, and we didn't say it in a particularly politicized or punk way. We said it in a more maybe guttural and offensive way.
Right. And it's fair to say that your style, and in particular your liberty with blending genres, was unique at the time. So where did that actually come from? Like, were you trying to go against everything in music, or were you creating something? Or
Maybe at first, in a way, the metal is pretty anti. But we were very inquisitive lads. So as we started growing up as musicians, in a way, this goes back to what I just told you. It's like breathing through a straw. You're taking in the entire outside world and mainlining it like it's a drug. For us, it was like record store and library. We're just going into the record store, going into the library, and immersing ourselves in anything that was happening, everything and anything. So we just really mainlined a lot of music from all around the world and from every era that we could get our hands on, and studying it and kind of reprocessing it. And we were also lucky, I will say. The band Fishbone came through our town, and that's like right in the middle of our metalhead phase, and it really helped us see that for live bands you can do a lot more. You can have a lot more nuance to what you're saying than just the headbanging shredding. Even though the shredding, like not to knock that stuff, because it's still evolving. Like the metal world is still totally incredible. It's still like evolving and becoming more interesting over time. But I guess for us, we just needed more right then, right now.
yeah.
So we just started going for it.
I've had the pleasure of speaking with Trevor before, and he's an amazing and brilliant musical mind. And Mike Patton speaks for himself, mate. So run us through the creative process when the three of you get together. Like, do you butt heads? Does it all come together nicely? Do you go sit in corners and do your thing? Like, what's the creative process like?
I would say I mean, we should talk about it's changed over the three different eras of the band. And it was definitely collaborative, like a gang in the 80s. It was us against the world. In the 90s, it kind of turned the opposite. Pat would be on tour, Trevor's in the jazz scene, and I'm in this kind of post-punk arty underground scene in San Francisco. So we would be completely separate, and then we would all reconvene and bring the ideas that we'd been working on for the band, and always be pleasantly surprised that they all were very well synchronized. So putting that together was always, I mean, I'm sorry, we never had arguments. The creative vision was always unified. It's unbelievable. Mr. Bungle has a chemistry where it's like, it's not that there's smooth sailing interpersonally on every level, but creatively speaking, there's the wheels are greased. We never had any issues on what, what this song should sound like. Should this part go here? Like, we're completely unified on that stuff. I don't know how. That's the way it is. That's the way it is.
So then after a few demos, the band released your debut self-titled album in 1991, mate. So how was it received at the time? Like, were you trying to create something that people liked, or were you trying to create something that you liked?
We had 4 demos under our belt, and we were really we were torn between trying to represent everything that we had been up until that moment, which we were totally bored with, and embracing the new moment and the new music that we had going. So that record kind of, I guess it's our coming of age. We were literally like 21 years old, 21 years old. And we just wanted to arrive with a record. We weren't really thinking about what the audience reception was going to be. That came a little later. And then we became, that's when the interaction, I would say maybe we became reactionary to what the audience expectation was, but not in making the record. We weren't thinking about the audience at all when we made the record.
Right. And then you released 2 more albums, Disco Volante in 1995 and California in 99, before going on a 20-year break from the year 2000. So at that stage, were you content with what Mr. Bungle had achieved as a band?
Yeah, in retrospect, I would say yes. I do think that because of the ambitiousness of Disco Volante and the sort of the pulling off some complicated things that probably should not have ever happened on a major label, that was nice to be able to have done that, and you can look back on that and feel good about it. And then the California record was absolutely more ambitious on a production level, and looking back on that one, it fulfilled. I think it fulfilled a lot of potentials of that band that had been dormant or we had only been fantasizing about, and it felt like we pulled it off. If you asked like where would it have gone from there, I'm not real sure, to be honest. Like, we had ideas that we were tossing around, but none of it was fully formed. And it's actually arguably probably best that it ended when it did, or went on its long break when it did, because I don't know, maybe the rest of the little threads out there that we would have followed would not have been as felt well formed. Like, I think it was our destiny to make Disco Volante in California. I don't know how much destiny we had past that at that time.
All right, interesting. And when you came back 20 years later, you brought Scott Ian in on guitar and Dave Lombardo on drums, who are both legends in their own right. But why were they the right fit for Mr. Bungle moving forward at that stage?
Oh, it was unbelievable because, we were listening, of course, to Slayer and Anthrax when we made our first demo in '85. We were sort of contemporaries, but totally isolated and a bit younger. So we were heavily influenced by both of those guys. That if you picked the 2 most influential people on us, arguably it would be those 2. And Patton and Trevor had been working with Dave Lombardo, and Mike knew Scott Ian personally. So when the idea was, let's recreate this thrash metal era because people don't know about it, what would be the best way to do that? I mean, the best way to do that would be to get Dave Lombardo and Scott Ian. So, long shot, but not really. They were excited to do it, and it's just like unbelievable, like a dream come true for us. And I feel like they dug in super hard. Like both of those guys did their homework and like really seriously brought it. Like those guys are not slouches in any way, man. They really brought it.
Shit on, shit on. And then of course you re-recorded and re-released your first demo, which was the Raging Rat of the Easter Bunny that year. So why did you choose to re-record an existing piece of work rather than write new songs with a new lineup?
Oh, because we didn't have an ambition to reconvene as a band, actually. This idea, which happened spontaneously when my band Secret Chiefs was opening up for Mike Patton's band Dead Cross, which has Dave Lombardo in it. And we were in Brooklyn, and Trevor, our bassist, was there, who you talked to, and he floated the idea like, this might be insane, but what if we got back together and we played that stuff with this guy, with Dave Lombardo? You know, that was really the genesis of it. It was kind of a snark. The way the whole band has been a kind of a snark to begin with, and we just laughed about it and thought, we could get away with doing that. Yeah, it kind of took root. It took a while. It was actually Dave Lombardo who he called me up, I don't know, months later, and was like, "Hey, remember that idea? Why don't we make a demo? Like you and me, we'll make a demo and surprise Mike and Trevor for their birthday. That we've actually been working on this stuff."
Wow.
So we did it. We worked up a little demo for it, and the rest is history.
Wow. And has there been talk of actually creating any new music, or are you just content sticking with the old stuff for now?
Well, one of the cool things about these tours is that every time we go out, we're taking on new sort of cover songs that are anything but death metal. So it's actually, I was mentioning the narrowed goalposts of this incarnation of the band, but actually they're slowly widening back up again because of this whole huge repertoire of cover songs that we're doing. We're just sort of exploring like what we can get away with the instrumentation that we have, which is just all guitars, and it's going better and better. Like it's actually pretty fun. It's become a very interesting part of the show is the curated covers. Patton is very good at selecting, these kind of things that you wouldn't expect. I mean, I know the guy very well, and he still comes up with these ideas. I'm like, what the hell? But then you don't think about it translating. Let's put it this way. It translates so well to the live performance, and it's all counterintuitive. It's stuff that I would never think, oh, that's going to be great when we play that in front of 4,000 people. Like I'd be kind of afraid, like this is going to suck. But it's always good. He has a killer instinct for curating those covers. I'll tell you.
Yeah, he's just one person I'd like to interview one day. It seems like he'd be a fascinating person.
Yeah. I mean, you've talked to Trevor and me. We're all pretty similar, but he has his special perspective.
So when all's said and done, bro, like when you look at it from a personal point of view, what do you see as Mr. Bungle's contribution to the music scene in general?
Mainly a lot of confusion, maybe a lot of bad. Like we came at the moment of new metal, and it did influence a bunch of those new metal bands. And not to talk too much smack about all of that, but like I'm glad that now, later, there are things that are emerging that claim Mr. Bungle influence that I'm pretty thrilled about. Like good stuff like there's the band Igor. And there's like I have a friend Raven Chancone, a composer who's like who was big into Mr. Bungle, has his own story about that. These things make me feel great. So I feel like some of the impact that we've had has been very, very positive and targeted right, like on the right people. Some of it seems to have landed in weird places that I have nothing to do with, so I always had mixed feelings about that, but things are working out fine now,
Very good. All right, Trey. Well, thanks very much for your time tonight, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Mr. Bungle started the tour in Auckland on March the 3rd before heading over to Australia. So I'll be at the Brisbane show, brother. So I'll be fun
awesome.
giving you a wave.
Excellent. Brisbane. It'll be great to be back there.